Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your daily dose of zombies news from the game and its community here on COD Zombies HQ. Thank you so much for tuning in today because we've got a lot to go over, including something that Treyarch I don't think has ever done before that involves them possibly adding new Easter eggs to old round-based maps here in Cold War. So without further ado, let's kick things right off with our first story of the day. If you guys weren't aware, the actual start date for Season 5 content was originally supposed to be released tonight. However, that has since been delayed, so the actual start date for Season 5, where you'll be able to access all of its contents, will begin tomorrow night. Though they didn't give us any particular reason for this delay, Treyarch did make a major update today, letting us know their current plans and changes that would be arriving into the Zombies mode as of Season 5. Now, the first big thing coming to Zombies that we all already knew of that was leaked beforehand is the tiers for the death perception perk. But if you did tune into the video a week ago where we covered the leaked tiers for the death perception perk, one of these tiers has been changed from then until now. I'm guessing it might have to do with the fact that the tiers were leaked. People weren't exactly impressed with the tiers of death perception, that one of these tiers definitely needed a boost, and that is the tier number 4, where originally it only granted a 10% increase to armor pen damage that has since been revised to an increase of 25%, so that the damage you'll actually be doing to armored zombies, to panzers with their armor on, and to certain bosses in the outbreak mode will be a lot less. All the other tiers are exactly as they have been leaked. That's the only one that has been buffed, and I think to the perk's benefit, making it a little bit more useful. I think you guys will agree. Treyarch did say about the addition of death perception that currently, right now in Season 5, the only way you'll be able to get it as we expected across round-based maps and outbreak maps is through the Wonder Fizz machine. However, they say that in Season 6, death perception's dedicated perk machine will debut alongside our 10th and final Perk-a-Cola. What could it be? Interesting that they're specifying this is their 10th and final Perk-a-Cola, which could signify what everybody expected with the release of Death Perception, that the double tap perk in the game has been cancelled, and that likely that this perk is some version of PhD Flopper, with both of those perks having their debut on the DLC 4 round-based map. Next up, we have the tiers for the new field upgrade ability called Tesla Storm. Now, for the base ability, Treyarch says that for 10 seconds, lightning will connect to other players, stunning and damaging normal enemies that touch that lightning. Now, what was confusing about this when they first announced this is that, well, what's gonna happen if you're playing solo? The lightning has no other players to connect to, and it seems like Treyarch is saying that in that case, the lightning effect will just be an area of effect around you, it won't connect to anything else. The tiered upgrades for Tesla Storm mostly focus on increasing its damage in tier number 1, increasing its duration by 5 seconds, making it last for 15 seconds in Tier 2. In Tier 3, special enemies can be stunned and damaged by Tesla Storm. In Tier 4, players get a 25% buff to movement speed, and in Tier 5, elite enemies can be stunned and damaged by Tesla Storm, meaning it'll work on big boss zombies like the Krasny Soldat. So it seems like kind of what we expected. This is a perk that just simply stuns and damages enemies in the direct area around you. This is also a perk that I feel like you'd want to use if you're running in a 4-player zombies lobby, and it'll be a lot less effective if you're just running it in a solo lobby, where it's going to be only AoE and you don't get any of the benefit of what seems to be the perk's big feature of connecting those lightning bolts. So it's a more co-op focused field upgrade, an interesting choice by Treyarch. We'll have to see how it works out in game. Next, Treyarch gives us a little bit of a heads up that while Season 5 content has been delayed by 1 day, they are enabling the ability for us to grab new intel that's going to be added apparently to the Outbreak game mode. That will do as we expected, where they say, we'll continue the Dark Ether story after the events of Mauer Der Toten. You won't want to miss a single intel drop this season, as it all builds up to the events at the start of our next round-based map. Interesting here how earlier in the post they noted that it was their final perk that they were adding, but they're not using the same terminology when it comes to maps, where they're just calling it their next round-based map instead of their final round-based map. Just a bit of interesting wording that stood out to me as to, well, hey, we might expect to see more maps in the future. Now, in terms of other new stuff they're adding in Season 5, there's things we already aware of, like the Flammenwerfer, which happens to Werfer the Flammen, a whole bunch of stuff specifically for the Outbreak game mode with the new region, a new objective, the addition of the tank, the addition of the grapple hook, and as we mentioned earlier, a whole bunch of new Season 5 intel added throughout Outbreak. That'll be available starting tonight when the actual download for the update goes live. They also noted that they added the Omega helicopter, which I assume is the extract chopper that Kravchenko flies when you extract on Mauer Der Toten. I don't think they're adding actual helicopters, which are in the combined arms mode in multiplayer into Outbreak. They probably would have advertised that beforehand, so I think this is just the extract chopper. And along with it, they're making some changes to the public playlist that the Outbreak mode is featured on. I know there's a few poor souls out there who are playing Outbreak public matches with randoms who'd always want to exfil on round number 1. So instead of that, they are introducing a 3-region guaranteed playlist into the Outbreak game mode for those of you that want to make sure that your randoms don't just dip out at the end of the very first Outbreak map. Next up, and this is the nitty-gritty here, this is where it gets really interesting and honestly really exciting. Okay, so like I said at the start of the video, for the first time ever, Treyarch may be adding new side Easter eggs to old Zombies maps, where they say specifically about Mauer Der Toten, they've added a couple of hidden surprises, which is basically Treyarch speak for there's new Easter eggs in the map for you guys to find. One of the big complaints about Mauer that I personally agree with, that a lot of people have been mentioning, is that while it's a fantastic map at its core, it's really lacking in depth of side Easter eggs, which seems to be a problem that Treyarch has heard and that they intend to address with the launch of Season 5, possibly adding a whole bunch more side Easter eggs into Mauer to increase the actual depth of the map itself, give players more things to do in the map when Season 5 launches, so that huge fans of the round-based maps that aren't really fans of the Outbreak mode will still have new stuff to do. Now, whatever these new additions into the map are, we don't know whether they'll actually go live tonight when the pre-download for Season 5 begins, or if they'll actually release with the content drops of Season 5 tomorrow, and I'm really hoping that this is a new thing that Treyarch will continue doing in the future, adding new Easter eggs to old round-based maps between the lulls and the waits between new round-based maps being added into the game. It'll keep the round-based maps fresh, keep people engaged that like round-based content, while expanding and evolving the Outbreak mode into the future. Very exciting stuff, and a huge pat on the back to Treyarch if this is indeed what we're expecting it to be. Next up, they continue with the changes specifically on Mauer Der Toten, kicking things off with changes to the Easter egg, where they say they've addressed an issue where the boss could become stuck when the players quickly move to the next arena during the main boss fight. So if you just huffed it to the next spawn location of Valentina, the game would just glitch out and she'd be stuck. That's a nice little fix there. Next, it seems like Treyarch has figured out that we players have noticed that they've made this change like a week ago, but now are only now deciding to address it now that we've figured it out. So they said that they've closed an exploit that allows infinitely charging and activating the field upgrade or the Ethereum canister during the main quest. If you checked out yesterday's video, we talked all about this. Players figured this was added into the game like a week ago, but Treyarch just didn't talk about it. Next up, they fixed a bunch of stability issues related to Klaus, the main quest, and ammo caches. Specifically related to Klaus, a lot of you guys have been reporting that your Klaus just doesn't go away, that he hangs with you throughout the game, meaning that it'll actually never end, as Klaus will just constantly revive you. This may be fixing that glitch, as well as the glitch that Klaus just never spawns again. He will always be on cooldown, so hopefully that's the stability fixes relating to Klaus here. Next up, they've said that they've reduced the max amount of points for respawning players on round-based maps to 25,000. This will now cap out at round 25 instead of round 50. I'm not exactly sure how many points it was giving players when they respawned after just totally going down before, but the ability to get 25k points spawning back at round 25 is a very reasonable number. And honestly, if you do go totally down and out, no revival, you're bleeding out after that point, it's gonna be tough to get back to a triple papped weapon with only 25k points, but hey, that's the cost of going down and out, right? Speaking of going down and out, Treyarch has made what I think everybody has considered up until this point the most useless perk in the game actually a lot more usable now, where they've made some big changes to Tombstone. The first change is the less interesting of the two, where they say that players now take 25% less damage in shadow form, so it should give you the ability to more easily revive yourself without going down. Secondly, this has been a big issue with Tombstone since its release, and it's very interesting that it's taken them until now to do this, where they say that the cost has been removed from the Tombstone stash, where if you weren't aware, if you went totally down and out and you spawned back into the map with, let's say, your 25k points, the Tombstone stash would cost the entirety of your 25k, meaning you'd instantly lose all your points. But Treyarch has now removed that cost, so when you respawn in, when you have Tombstone and your stash is somewhere on the map, you can grab it at no cost without taking a huge ding to your actual point totals. A big change for Tombstone that actually makes it a lot better in my opinion. Next up, Treyarch is adding 20 new zombies season challenges, so a whole bunch more calling cards and XP rewards for you guys to try to go for, especially for those of you out there who are completionists that like to collect every single challenge every single season. For those of you that are out there, I definitely salute you. Next, Treyarch is fixing a whole bunch of issues that were still in the game when you were trying to apply blueprints to your weapons. First of all, Treyarch says that they've addressed an issue where applying a blueprint to a weapon that had been pack-a-punch to tier 2 or 3 would reset it back to a PAP tier 1 camo, so a small visual glitch change, but good to see. Next, they say they've addressed an issue where blueprint weapon skins were not retained when warping to the next region in Outbreak, so big change for those of you that are fans of Outbreak, where your skins would just basically be totally reset every time you warp, basically making them worthless as you'd probably never see them except for the first round. Lastly, in a change that affects both round-based maps and Outbreak, they've addressed an issue where attachments were actually being removed from weapons when applying blueprints with Mule Kick. So another issue related to Mule Kick being solved. Slowly and slowly, that perk is becoming a lot more stable here in Zombies. But geez guys, that was a lot to go over. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a thumbs up down below, especially if you're excited for the possibility of new Easter eggs being added into Mauer Der Toten. I'm personally very pumped about that. And hey, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll be covering those Easter eggs when they inevitably get found. But I want to thank you again for watching, and I'll see you with another Zombies news video tomorrow. Peace.